Sixers fans, welcome back. Look, I wanted to make a video recently just kind of dedicated to Tobias Harris, just to talk about Tobias Harris and the impact that he has to Philadelphia. But I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't because last night, the game winner against the best team in the NBA, what better time to make a video right now to appreciate Tobias Harris than today? That being said, let's get into it. As you guys know, we made that deal with the Los Angeles Clippers. We sent Landry Shamet, Wilson Chandler, Mike Muscala, 2 first-round picks to the Clippers 2 years ago now in exchange for Tobias Harris, of course, Boban Marjanovic, who's my man, love that dude, and Mike Scott. Originally, I think a lot of people hated on this trade. They said, Philadelphia gave up too much, blah, 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 blah. But looking back at it, especially after the deal of Drew Holiday, who you could argue are relatively the same caliber, Philadelphia really didn't give much up at all to receive a borderline all-star. It's been a phenomenal deal, and it's been basically a steal for Philadelphia. Looking back at how the trade is panned out so far, the Clippers have really nothing on their roster that they can show for that trade. But ever since that, Tobias Harris has been given extra expectations. And, as soon as that season ended and he signs this huge max contract, everybody's labeling him a bust. Everybody's labeling him overpaid. Everybody's saying, what a terrible contract. And I think I could probably argue that I was one of those people. I think most people, most Sixers fans, most NBA fans in general thought of the Tobias Harris contract as too much. He's not a max player, and though I still don't think he is necessarily a $190 million max guy, I think he's played extremely well and extremely close to living out that contract on a positive note. Tobias Harris's main problem throughout his career has been consistency. He can play extremely well for a week and a half, and then lose all touch and miss every single three-pointer he takes for the next 2 weeks. That's kind of how Tobias Harris's career has been. He has been a journeyman a lot more than I think people realize. He was drafted on the Bobcats, first of all. He played his rookie season in Milwaukee. He played in Orlando. He played in Detroit, the Clippers, and Philadelphia. That's a lot of teams. Most people don't really remember Tobias Harris for being in the league for 10 years, in which he has been. But he has been a consummate professional from the moment he stepped into the NBA. And he's been really good, dude. A really, really good player everywhere he's been. $180 million, that's the question. That's what Philadelphia fans kind of hold him at nowadays because of the contract, because of the price tag on his head. But that being said, this man's been nothing short of phenomenal this year. He's having the best year of his career in so many different statistical categories, and efficiency-wise, he's putting up a phenomenal, borderline historic season. If you're a fan of a traditional statistic, way to break down a player, okay, let me break it down for you real quick then. Tobias Harris is averaging 20.1 points per game this year, which is the second highest among his career. He was doing that for a half season with the Clippers before we traded for him. He's averaging 6.7 rebounds a night, which is higher than he has been for the majority of his career. 2.8 assists, which is a little bit lower than normally, but when we have so many different guys holding the basketball in their hands for possessions, it's going to be tough for a guy like Tobias Harris, who is kind of our quick decision ISO bucket getter, to really carve out assists. He had 0.9 steals and 0.9 blocks, which are both relatively high for Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris has been historically a negative defender, though this year actually having an above average defensive season. I can break that down a little bit later too when I start talking about advanced metrics. So Tobias Harris right now is shooting 52.5% from the field on 46% from three. That is phenomenal. This man shoots a ton of three-pointers. He's averaging 4.8 a night. He's 13th in the league in three-point percentage. And only 4 guys ahead of him have more attempts than him. That is extremely, extremely impressive. He's almost a 50-40-90 club who only 8 guys in the NBA have ever done in a season. And the guys are like Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Larry Bird, Malcolm Brogdon, Mark Price, Reggie Miller, Dirk Nowitzki. I think that's, I don't know. That's all I got. Yeah. So he's putting up a borderline historical season if he can get his free throws up from 82% right now to 90, which is extremely doable, especially for a guy like Tobias Harris who gets to the line but not too much, if that makes sense. His effective field goal percentage, by the way, guys, if you're into advanced metrics, is 59.7%, which is phenomenal. It is a career best for him by a long shot, which means he's being efficient with his field goals, which means he's being efficient with the ball in his hands. He's not throwing the ball over as much. He's just shooting really well from all areas on the court, and that is huge for a guy like Tobias Harris, especially when we have guys around him like Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons that we need somebody to stretch the floor, and he does that. He's been phenomenal in that way. From the moment we got Tobias Harris too, he's always been that guy. He has always been the guy we go to in the fourth quarter. Whether it works or not, we have always counted on Tobias Harris. And personally, I love it. I think Tobias Harris is the clutch guy on the Sixers. Whether or not I think he's a type of a Jimmy Butler type clutch guy, I don't think so, but he is a phenomenal guy at what he does. He finds his spot. That play that we drew up last night by Doc Rivers against the Lakers last night was perfect. I mean, it was perfect. The pick and roll that had the mismatch of Alex Caruso guarding Tobias Harris, and then we all isolated. The fact that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid didn't even touch the ball in the last possession shows you how much confidence Doc Rivers has in Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris got up to the elbow, and just raised up and shot the ball over Alex Caruso. Alex Caruso had nothing he could possibly do about it. He's too small. He's just too small. Tobias Harris is too quick to be 6'8", 225. The guy is a large individual doing things at a guard level, which is extremely impressive. So when the number is called upon him late at games, he honestly tends to play really well. He has been a really good fourth quarter scorer for the Sixers kind of throughout the years. Whenever we need somebody just to go get a bucket, it's been Tobias Harris, and it's been pretty huge, especially when games like Embiid are out. You can always rely on Tobias Harris to drop you 24, 25. It's Ben Simmons that, people were kind of worrying about, still are. Now, if you like advanced metrics like me, which I start to kind of deep dig into these players in the NBA to see, who's really being good. For me, advanced metrics are perfect because it can perfectly show you what a player like Trae Young means to a team. Because on a stat sheet, you see his stats and you're like, wow, Trae Young is the best player in the NBA. This man is unbelievable. He's going to give you 30 points a game on 40% three-point shooting, and he shoots like Steph Curry. But then you start to realize his, defensive plus-minus is arguably the worst in the NBA. It's like minus 2.5, and it perfectly shows how he is to a team. He's extremely good, but he is extremely negative on the defensive end, which balances him out into being a top 20 player, but nothing more. Arguably top 20. So that being said, he has a 114 offensive rating, Tobias Harris does, which the league average right now is 110. So points per 100 possession, he is 114. Tobias Harris is a very good player. His offensive box plus minus is a 2.7, which is a career high. It's 28th in the league, ahead of guys like Kawhi Leonard, Luka Doncic, and D'Angelo Russell, just to keep that in perspective for you. His real plus minus, which is offense plus defense, is a 3.07, which is 25th in the league, ahead of guys like John Collins, Christian Wood, Jason Tatum, right behind a guy named Trae Young. That shows you. They have Trae Young basically at the 24th best player in the league this year. Because given his high offensive plus minus, which is top 10 in the league, his defensive plus minus is almost the worst in the NBA, especially given the minutes that he puts out. That shows you, so they usually kind of have Trae Young around 24, Tobias Harris at 25. That shows you how good of a season Tobias Harris is having. 3.07, it's an extreme career high. His win shares right now are 1.73. Usually, obviously this number will go up the more games he plays. This man, Tobias Harris, plays 34 minutes a night every single time. He never misses games. The dude is an absolute Iron Man. He's 34th in the league in win shares, ahead of guys like Jamal Murray, Luka Doncic again. Oh my God, if I say that man's name wrong one more time. And Zach LaVine. Just to let you know. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Tobias Harris is better than Jason Tatum or Luka Doncic. All I'm saying is it makes you realize how good of a season Tobias Harris is really having. Those stats aren't everything. Tobias Harris is showing off in the statistical category of traditional basketball and sabermetric basketball, of advanced analytic basketball. Everyone right now loves him. He passes the eye test, but he also passes the math test, the stat test. He is really, really good this year. He's been extremely consistent. It's like every single night for the Sixers, you watch this man go out and get you 20 to 25 points on a nightly basis. The way he hits his shots right now, it's quick decision making. I said before the season started, Doc Rivers is the guy that can tap the potential of Tobias Harris. Maybe that's why we hired Doc Rivers in the first place. It's just to get the most out of Tobias Harris. And look, we are getting the most out of Tobias Harris. He is playing the best basketball of his career. He's been extremely consistent throughout the entire season so far, which is huge. He's had one bad game, and it was the first game of the season. Tobias Harris is playing phenomenal. He's 13th in three-point percentage this year. 4 guys, like I said, 4 guys have more attempts than him per game. He almost has 5 3 attempts a game. He is really, really good this year. It's time to just appreciate him. It's time to realize, his contract isn't as bad as people thought it was. And people, including me and you. Don't just sit there and expect, and don't lie to yourself telling you like, I knew this was a good contract all along. I backed Tobias Harris. No, you didn't. No one backed Tobias Harris. Nobody. And this man used it as fuel to come out this year and just be good. Just be really, really good. I don't know if he's an all-star, but he is as close as he has ever been with Philadelphia. And that right there alone gives you appreciation for what this man has done this year. This man has given everything he has to Philadelphia, and it is showing. He worked really hard in the offseason, and all basketball aside, this man is an awesome, awesome person. He is a spokesperson for civil rights, constantly saying the right thing. The article that he had that came out last year about, Black Lives Matter movement and everything going on was a phenomenal read. This dude is a phenomenal person. I am more than happy to see young Simba. I know that's Justin Anderson's nickname, but young Simba, because Tobias Harris looks like J. Cole, to come out and play well. Sixers fans, let's enjoy this team right now because we are on a roll. Tomorrow night we're playing the Minnesota Timberwolves, which we should absolutely annihilate. I would like to see a blowout so I can get Isaiah Joe play like 15 minutes. That'd be cool. But peace out. Go Sixers.